Yo, what is up, guys? XRP is at $1.07 right now in CoinMarketCap. Our first tweet comes from the Crypto Square. Wall Street isn't waiting. BlackRock has already made its position clear. It wants the US Senate to pass the Clarity Act and give digital assets the regulatory framework they need to grow. Congress, the ball is in your court. Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. Massive news. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink is highly bullish on the crypto market over the next 12 months. Rumors are that BlackRock will tokenize assets on the XRP ledger and launch an XRP ETF as soon as Clarity gets signed. Let's watch this video.
I was always worried about the leverage in Bitcoin and crypto. There was too much leveraged players in it. That's why we had the washout, and I think there's more stability at these levels here. But no, we don't see that much implicit leverage. For the scale of the capital markets today, the leverage is not as large. I mean, that doesn't mean there's not pockets. But no, as I said in my prepared remarks this morning, I'm very bullish on the markets over the next 12 months. I think the technological revolution is going to power better margins for more companies. I mean, think about BlackRock. We've raised our margins increased by 260 basis points over the last 12 months. A lot of it is using more and more.
Smash that subscribe button and hit that like button if you believe XRP will reach $3 again this year. Our next tweet comes from Bitcoin Magazine. Just in, American financial technology block officially endorses passing the Clarity Act. I'm writing to express our strong support for the digital asset market Clarity Act and to respectfully urge Senate floor consideration of this bill. Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. Breaking: Bloomberg has just confirmed that 10 Democrats are probably going to vote for the Clarity Act. It's happening. Let's watch this video.
Issue now for a year because the Democrats want to put in place guardrails that prevent the president from continuing to make literally billions of dollars from an industry that he regulates. And the president doesn't want anything that would cost him money. So how you sort of thread the needle there is what they're discussing behind closed doors. Tom Tillis, Republican of North Carolina, is working with Ruben Gallego of Arizona, the Democrat. They are trying to come up with some kind of compromise legislation to send to the White House this week in hopes of unlocking a deal. There are 7 to 10 Democrats who sound like they want to ultimately pass a bill, but this is just very hard for them politically. Even if they like the underlying bill, they're going to face challenges in Democratic primaries from their own base saying, hey, you just backed legislation that the president that they don't like wants at a time when he's making literally billions of dollars. Now, I think one of the things that they've been discussing is whether there could be a more independent way to enforce the new restrictions on the president,
right,
which would require him to either have a blind trust or just divest his holdings. But it's really hard to see how you can get the president on board with that.
So, Stephen, there is...
Our next tweet comes from the Crypto Barbie. Huge. The US SEC says it's ready to create crypto regulations if Congress doesn't pass the Clarity Act. Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. Breaking: CEO of the American Bankers Association said live on CNBC. Big banks are all waiting for the Senate to move forward on the Clarity Act. The Clarity Act will open the institutional floodgates. Let's watch this video.
So big banks all waiting for the Senate to move forward on the Clarity Act, which would put some new rules around crypto and stablecoin industries. Joining us right now to talk about it is Rob Nichols. He is the president and CEO of the American Bankers Association. And Rob, I can't think of anything that has gotten bankers more riled up than the Clarity Act recently. Maybe we can point back to the huge kind of back and forth fights between Jamie Dimon and Brian Armstrong from Coinbase about what's going on here. You obviously represent bankers. Why don't you tell me your side of things, what you find wrong with the Clarity Act?
Sure. Well, there's a lot of good in the Clarity Act, too. We do think that we should have a supervisory framework over digital assets. We think that's important. And innovation in the United States is important as well, so we support that. But we want to make sure we do it in a way that doesn't impact economic activity and local lending. So the new draft, Becky, that just came out, it's 600 pages. And the intent of the senators is to ensure that, just like in the Genius Act, issuers of payment stable coin are not able to offer yield, interest, or reward for fear that deposits would flee banks and credit unions. And that would impact a lot of economic activity all across the United States, New Jersey, and everywhere else. So we're working with the senators just to make sure that the language that they intend can also extend to affiliates and to exchanges. And so there isn't a massive dampening of economic activity. So the Congress intent here is simply what we're helping them do. The bill, Becky, is about 600 pages, and there's only 2 paragraphs that were suggesting tiny surgical edits. So the bill will do exactly what the senators want it to do. I will say this, too, and you mentioned the dialogue between Mr. Armstrong and Jamie Dimon. I do think that the crypto and the banking sectors can coexist. I think we can be the crypto capital of the world, and I think we can be the banking capital of the world. But there is a reason that they call it payment stablecoin and not deposit stablecoin. You know, Congress views this as a very important payment innovation. I share that view, but they don't view it as a deposit substitute. And the two things are different. You know, when
But Brian
banks
Armstrong says that what he's been pushing for with this and what the legislation says at this point is actually in favor of consumer interests. Why?
Our next tweet comes from Ripple City. Just in, XRP could become the settlement engine for modern markets, bridging crypto and Wall Street. Our next tweet comes from Crypto Barbie. Breaking, U.S. Senator Cynthia Lummis urges the Democrats to act. The Clarity Act is good for the country, good for consumers, and good for the people. We represent on both sides of the aisle. Let's watch this video.
This is a very good bill. Good for the country, good for consumers, and good for the people we all represent on both sides of this aisle. And after 11 months of giving nearly everything that was asked of us, I am genuinely struggling to understand what else my colleagues across the aisle think it needs before we act. When I was elected to the Senate in 2020, I knew I wanted to work on digital asset legislation because Wyoming's legislature was already years ahead of Washington, building a legal framework for digital asset companies before most of the country was even paying attention. I wanted to do everything I could to keep those companies in Wyoming, and more importantly, to keep them in America. The person I have been most proud to work with is Democratic Senator Kirsten Gillibrand of New York. People have raised an eyebrow for years that a Wyoming Republican and a New York Democrat have worked hand in hand on this bill. But we have become genuine friends, and I trust her. In June 2022, we introduced the Lummis-Gillibrand Responsible Financial Innovation Act together. The first real attempt at a comprehensive regulatory framework for digital assets, dividing oversight between the SEC and the CFTC and regulating stablecoins. That was a 168-page bill. We had to start by deciding whether to create a unique new standalone regulatory framework or lay digital assets over the existing framework. We chose the latter, and then we took off from there. Now, we reintroduced Lummis-Gillibrand in 2023. That was a 274-page bill. It contained provisions that cracked down on mixers and tumblers and crypto ATMs, required plain language customer agreements, and regulated crypto advertising. It was a very strong bill for consumers. From a consumer protection standpoint, it had improved dramatically. Now, that partnership is the foundation this bill stands on, and it's why I reject any suggestion that this bill is partisan. This bill is bipartisan. It has always been about keeping an industry we want here to stay, but regulated in the right way. In Wyoming, we used to call it growth on our terms. This bill is growth on our terms. It is growth on American terms, protecting consumers and protecting us from illicit finance. Now, today, we have a 616-page bill because I've listened to my Republican and Democrat friends, incorporated their priorities, and tried to create the best bill possible. That is how we got to a 15-9 bipartisan vote out of the Banking Committee in May. Now,
Real quick, if this helped, press the like button. It tells YouTube to show this to people who want the truth, not hype. And press the subscribe button if you're done being sold the moon. I've already got your next one right here. Go.